Thank you so much, Shanila, and Assalamu alaikum, everyone. Before we start off, I would just like Sir Jamal to, give his opening remarks and maybe just introduce everybody to the conference itself and today's theme too. So, Sir Jamal, over to you.
Thank you, Naksh. Thank you, Asham. Thank you, Shanila. And I'm not going to deliver a formal remarks, and I'm going to welcome you all. My name is Jamal Ghazanfar, and I am Alumni Coordinator for Punjab, and I welcome you all on behalf of U.S. Consulate PUAN in this virtual employability conference. This is our second conference, and we organized the first employability conference in 2019 in Nishat Hotel. It was in person, but this time we are going to organize virtual because of the COVID, and we are trying our best to provide as much content as we can that can be useful for your future and for your job. So our aim is that we are going to share this training and these skills with all of you without any socioeconomic background for all the member of PUAN from all over Pakistan. So I would really appreciate that you attend this conference with your interest and passion with all the sessions, like 7 sessions you will be attending, and then you will be able to get the certificate. So every session is going to have one hour 30-minute session with question answers. So this conference is like it's going to provide you an opportunity to learn more about how you can become a good in your field, like if you are working or if you are trying to get job. So this conference is provide to identify your career and your interest related to the career and your preferences, and it is also going to provide some kind of an option so you can identify and narrow down your career options, connect your degree programs to potential career, and it also going to provide you some kind of some kind of energy to cope up with your stress and anxiety related to career development, building your confidence in career decision making abilities and future academic planning and developing your career path. So this conference is provide you so many so many kind of ways and learning and skills which can be used for your future job and career and goals. So I would also like to thank you, my colleagues, and who is a great support, Ashab Lodi. He is working with me on this conference. Last time it was in person, and we done a great job in Nishat Hotel. So this time we were having a challenge to how we can manage it virtually, but I'm glad that I have a support and colleague like Ashab, who is always on the front head and supporting me. I would also like to thank you, Shanila. She is a great support on technical side, and she is providing some kind of all the PUAN webinar and conferences. Without Shanila's support and technical support on Zoom, it's not possible. So we have Naksh. She is basically going to moderate this session. So Naksh is a former exchange ambassador for PUAN Lahore. She is currently working as a program manager for Amal Academy, and she is a U-Grad alumna, spring 2017. She was also working for different organizations, like she worked with Search for Justice as a communication officer, and she also worked as a camp director with the Rabta organization, which is a volunteer work organization, a youth-led organization. So Naksh will be moderating this session, and Naksh is having a great experience in recruiting and all kind of HR-related experiences. So we have a PUAN senior. I know my colleague Shahid Wasim, if he has joined, but if he has not joined, I also like to thank and appreciate his efforts as well. So over
thank
to you.
Jamal, I'm here.
Good, Shahid Wasim sir. So finally, this session is over to Naksh for the moderating and further discussion with the panelists. Thank you.
Right. Thank you so much, Sir Jamal, for that brief introduction to the conference itself and to me as well. I welcome all of you on today's platform, and I think we are already one step ahead because despite all of the constraints that we have, despite the pandemic, we've still been able to become a part of this conference today. So kudos to all of you for doing that. And before we jump into taking your questions in the actual discussion, I would quickly want to introduce our panelists. We have two very learned and professional people who've joined us today. And first of all, I'd like to introduce Mr. Brian Brendel, who is the U.S. Foreign Service Officer. He's currently serving as the Deputy Public Affairs Officer in Lahore. Mr. Brendel has spent 2 decades working in traditional publishing and new media in the private sector and for the U.S. government. His previous assignments with the US government include service in Washington, D.C., Beijing, and Chennai. The amazing part is that he has hired over 100 employees and interviewed thousands of candidates for positions in private industry and within the US government, which makes him a person that we can all today easily reach out to and ask all our questions and queries related to the CV. So thank you so much, Mr. Brian, for being here. It's an absolute honor and pleasure. Right, so our second panelist is Ms. Lubna Malik. And to introduce Ms. Lubna Malik, I'd like to say that she is one of the most result-oriented and professional, credible LinkedIn writer that we have in Pakistan right now. She has around 6 years of work experience in professional CV writing, cover letter writing, LinkedIn profiles revamping. She has been working with different industries all across Pakistan, including engineering, banking, finance, accountancy, so you name it, and I'm sure she must have done some work related to it. She has written more than 1,000 resumes, cover letters, and she has worked on developing LinkedIn profiles for national and international professionals across all of these industries that I just talked about. And like above everything else, she is the CEO of Warrior CV, so the name itself says a lot. She's been acting out as a warrior for a lot of people and helping them out as well. And it is also known that Warrior CV is one of the most highly responsive customer service out there too. So thank you, Ms. Lubna, for joining us as well.
Thank you so much, Nakash. Thank you.
You're most welcome. You're most welcome. And I think we all look forward to benefiting from the knowledge and life experiences that you both have to share with us today. So to kick the session off, I would pose a very simple question, but also something that is very confusing for a lot of students and a lot of professionals. So Lubna, I'm posing this question to you. What is actually a CV? And when you hear the word CV, what are recruiters looking for, and what do students and professionals be working on? And with this, I would also want to know the difference between a CV and resume, which is something very commonly confused by a lot of people here.
Okay, first of all, thank you so much, Naksh, for a nice introduction. And thank you so much, US Consul General and Pakistan-U.S. Alumni and Pakistan-U.S. Alumni Network for inviting me here. And I'm earlier the last year the conference was held at the Nishad, and I was also the part of that conference. And this is the second time I'm joining this conference. And thank you so much, Jamal and Zen, for contacting me and giving me an honor to be part of this this event. Okay, your question is this regarding the CV and the resume. You want to know the difference between the CV and the resume?
Yes.
Do you want to know the? Okay. Actually, both the CV and the resume are the professional bios. It tells a career story and it's a career profile. What is the difference between these two terms? There are two different schools of thoughts regarding the CV and the resume, regarding the difference in fact. The resume is a term that's a professional use for the professional profile in the USA, while in Europe, the professional word, professional profile, for the professional profile, the term is used, they say CV. But here in Asia, both terms are used. The resumes are used, the CV is used. Actually, both terms clearly tells that this is the professional profile of a professional. Okay, a second school of thought is resume is the short version of your professional story. Okay, while the CV is a long version of your career bio. Exactly. When you use a one-page professional profile, that is called the resume. And if the professional profile is more than one page, it can be a 2-page, it can be a 3-page. Then you will call it a CV. CV is a detailed version of your professional profile. Here, it is the difference between the resume and the CV. And what's your second question? Sorry.
No, so we just wanted a general idea on what a CV is. So what should students and young professionals understand when they see in a job advertisement that a CV is required to apply?
Makes your voice break.
Sorry, did you ask a question? Sorry, I could not hear you.
Am I audible now? Lubna, can you hear me?
Yes. Yeah, now I can hear you.
Yes, perfect. Okay, so I was just asking that maybe if you can give young professionals and students an idea of what a CV really means when the recruiters ask for a CV, when they put it out there in the job advertisement, what are they actually looking for?
Okay. My always advice to the young professional is you have to evaluate your CV. You have to craft your CV through the lens of the recruiter. This is not something what you like you can add on your CV. That won't give you the results. You should add what the recruiter is looking for. Okay, actually, every professional need a CV. Okay, to get the pool, to get the job or the hiring purpose. Everybody needs. Okay, actually, there are 3 basic challenges every professional face while writing a CV or submitting a CV. And what are those 3 challenges? Actually, an effective CV is a smart CV. That should be a very smart. That should capture the attention of the recruiter in just 6 seconds. A CV should be smart enough that that makes you stand out in the crowd. Every professional needs a CV that gets you maximum number of interviews. That's the main objective of every professional. Every professional wants a maximum number of CV from wherever they apply. They need the maximum number of interview calls. Okay, I will discuss. I have just stated you need a CV that gets the attention of the recruiter in 6 seconds. It's a 6-second challenge. I call it a 6-second challenge. It's challenge. It's very crucial because in the statistics shows that a recruiter takes an average 6 seconds to decide on a CV whether it should be accepted or it should be rejected, or it should be further processed, or it should be turned down. Okay, this 6-second time period is very important. Now, professional need such a powerful CV that immediately get the attention of the recruiter. Now the question is how, what should be added into the CV that would get the attention of the recruiter in such a small time period. Okay, add all of the information that is most relevant. For this purpose, you can look at the job post that you want to apply for. There is the section of what is the requirement of this job post. Okay, that section is very important. You get all of this information, assimilate your skills, your strengths with that information, and add all of those keywords into your CV. Okay, that would give the impression to the recruiter, yes, you have gone through the job post. You have not given it, you have not posted it randomly, that most of the professionals do. Okay, now the second challenge is you need a CV that stands you out in the crowd. That's very important. That's very important. You have to differentiate from hundreds of thousands of professionals who are your competitor to get that job. For this purpose, you need a CV that should be accomplishment-focused CV, the achievement-focused CV. In the later half or in the next discussion, I would explain you what is actually achievement-focused CV and how you can describe your wins as in an impressive way. Okay, now the last challenge that's very important. You need a CV that gets you maximum number of interview calls. Everybody want to get the 100% interview calls. But very honestly, it's a research, it's a survey. It shows 98% CVs are rejected. 2% are accepted, just 2% are accepted. There are many reasons, there are multiple factors, but as the session goes, we will discuss all of the important factors, but do's and what are the don'ts you should do on, those are the factors you should avoid into your CV, and what important information you should add into your CV. Okay, these are the three challenges that every professional has to face, and actually these are the challenges that makes your CV, that break your CV, that increase your chances of getting the interview calls. That obviously even if you get the interview calls, you will get, there are chances you will get the job as well. Okay, so this is all about the effective CV. How these are the factors when we craft a CV, we should consider these factors. Okay.
Great. Thank you so much, Ms. Lubna, for responding to my question in such an elaborate manner and also covering a lot of other aspects.
Yeah.
Right. So my next question is from Brian. So Brian, our theme of today's conference is how to write an effective CV. So if you had to look at this question and a young professional came to you asking this question, what would you tell him or her? So Brian, are you there?
Oh, I'm having intermittent audio. I just turned off my camera for a minute. Can you please repeat the last thing that you said?
Yes, definitely. So, Sarvan, I was asking you that as the topic of today's conference suggests that we want to know how to write an effective CV. So if a young professional came to you asking this question, how would you respond to it?
Okay. I would say this is, it's a little bit like dressing differently for a different event. You know, you're going to wear different suits of clothes for a wedding or a job interview or going out with your friends. If you think that you can make just one version of your CV and that it is magic and it will work for every job, that's probably not correct. There are certain things that everyone has done in their past, maybe some volunteer work that could be very appropriate for some jobs, but it's a distraction for a different job. You know, if you volunteer, for example, with water quality, and if that's something that you're very passionate about, something that would give an employer a good idea about your interests, you want to include that, but only submit it when it is appropriate. Otherwise, it's a distraction. You know, if you're trying to get a job, you know, like a management job at an automotive company, it's not likely that that would be the, you know, something that you would want to include. Now, if you're just starting out and you don't have a lot of accomplishments in any field, if you're very new, just out of university, maybe include everything you've done and just hope for good luck. But I think one of the things that I have seen is people submitting things on a resume that are really distractions from the job. And I would say, if you are applying for a position, please consider that there are hundreds of people applying for a job many times. And I use the example of 500, 50, and 5. If you want to hire someone, maybe you'll interview 5 candidates. That's about how much time the hiring manager would actually have time for. They're not going to interview 100 people for one job. It's a huge waste of time. So they collect all the resumes that get submitted, and usually they will have a low-level employee search through the resumes, for some vital information, maybe the amount of education someone has or years of work experience. And if they meet the minimum requirements, then they get passed into a smaller pool, a short list. And then from that short list, that is when things such as the cover letter would be important, and we can talk about that. But the idea that you should put everything you've ever done in your resume just to look extra long and impressive, I mean, it can be really silly. I've seen people include things they did when they were 10 years old, or 12 years old. I volunteered at my uncle's store when I was 14. And it's not very impressive for a 30-year-old person to include that sort of thing. So I think you have to be judicious about what job you're really applying for. Because if your CV or your resume says, I will apply for anything, then that may have, some honesty to it, but it's not going to tell the employer, this person really wants to work in my industry. So I would caution against having one master resume or CV for all jobs. And that requires a lot of editing for everyone. And I'm sorry that it's not an easy answer, but you will have to make many versions. And I know when you put things on LinkedIn and other platforms, that's a little different, because then you have one resume where you're competing with everybody else for every job in the world. And that's a little more difficult. So it depends a lot on how you're submitting your resume. Putting something through LinkedIn is a lot different than uploading a resume just to someone's website. And I'll leave that as my answer for now.
Right, thank you so much, Ryan. And I think you've responded to a lot of other follow-up questions that I had in just this one response. So I think I'll have to come up with more questions to ask you all. And so for now, I'll move back to Ms. Lubna. And Ms. Lubna, now that you've worked on so many resumes, you've helped out so many people improve their profiles, improve their CVs, how and do you think are some of the most common mistakes that could be avoided, and something that you've just generally observed all across the board? Specifically, I mean, in Pakistan?
Laksh, I just want to explain the most common problems. Recruiters, why 98% CVs are rejected and just 2% are accepted. This is a dilemma, Now I would like to explain a few reasons why, what are the major the negative aspects the recruiter finds and they immediately reject. Not number one reason, but the topmost reason, your CV has a spelling and grammar mistakes. Okay, no recruiters like the spelling and grammar mistakes, and these mistakes should be avoided at any cost. Like it will show if your resume or the CV has the spelling and grammar mistakes, that means you are not you have not given proper time to your resume, and you are not serious. Okay, seriousness is a different aspect, but you have not given proper time to craft your CV, because that's very important. That would give you the interview calls. Now the question is how you can overcome this problem. Actually, I would like to share a few research and the survey numbers with you. 60% recruiters receive the CV with grammar and spelling mistakes. And out of them, 81% CVs are rejected due to the grammar and the spelling mistakes. Okay, for some people, this is the silly mistake, but this is the big mistake. 81% CVs are rejected on the basis of this. Now the question is, how would you overcome this problem? Okay. Usually, CVs are crafted in the MS Word, and professionals rely on the grammar and the grammar, and there is the feature of the grammar and the spelling checker. Usually, professionals do that, but I don't trust this tool because this tool can't differentiate between the meat and the meat, MEET meat and MEAT meat. If you mention the MEAT meat, that would how would this software would correct this word, and it would be added into your resume. That's why there are many online grammar and spelling tools available. Some are reliable, but my honest professional advice is use the human evaluation, you can say. Contact your parents, contact your siblings, ask your friends to just go through your CV and highlight those mistakes, because fresh minds can easily point out, yes, this is the mistake, this is the spelling mistake. It is the easiest way and the reliable way to overcome this problem. Okay, do you want me?
Thank you so much, Lubna, for that response. And I think I would want to pose the same question to Sir Brian as well, because he's also seen CVs even on, in different countries, and I hope that there has been more diversity of mistakes as well. So Brian, would you also want to share what were some of the common mistakes and how can we avoid those mistakes?
Yes. Don't ask for advice from anybody over the age of 45. And I mean this because people mean well, but they have references, things that worked for them, that were a long time ago. The last time I applied for a job was more than a decade ago. I don't even have a resume. So I think that you need to think about how, who are you asking? So I also think, yes, spelling and grammar mistakes are a big problem, but there's something that's a little more delicate, and I mean to say this very, very politely. Most countries are not very tolerant of other people's grammar. You know, if I write as an American for a job in the UK, they will kind of roll their eyes a little bit, I think. And you know, if I'm applying for a job in Canada, you know, they spell some words differently than they do in the United States.
Yeah.
So I think you have to be very careful if you are applying for a position in a foreign country, to be very careful with your grammar requirements. But the same is true if you're applying for a job in Pakistan. As a Pakistani, I would assume that you want to make sure you're matching the grammar structure of the company you're applying to. You know, there are different standards of grammar for different institutions. So you would need to be very careful to, you know, have a professional check over your CV, your cover letter. And this is where it becomes difficult. You know, if you have a different resume or a different cover letter for each job, it can be very tedious, very time consuming, and sometimes very expensive to make all of these changes. So I would suggest you're very, very careful to get maybe a master CV or resume. And then from that, you can remove things if they're not appropriate for one job. But grammar and spelling is one big problem. The other thing I would say, and I don't know how true this is for PUAN, so forgive me if this is a little off topic, but many of the resumes that I have seen in Pakistan have information that is maybe important for some jobs, you know, but I don't care what your scenic number is, and I don't care about your parents' name, and I don't care what village you are from or what city. I want to know your name, your email address, and what your experience is. So those things should be front and center. And that's, you know, the other information may be, you know, put later if it must be included, but I don't think the place you are from is the most important thing about you. And I will just leave it at that.
Great. Thank you so much, Brian.
Next, I want to add something here regarding the contact information. I just want to share about actually the question is what contact information should be added into the CV. I just want to guide on this. Number one, your email address should be there. Number two, your phone number should be there. Your obviously a recruiter wants to know where you are located. Your city name and your country name should be there. Okay, these are the basic information that should be there. You won't get the interview calls or like this until or unless they are correct. Okay, if you give the incorrect information, the wrong phone number, incorrect email address, then how the recruiter can contact you. If your CV is perfect, your resume is very accomplishment focused, very well crafted, but the contact information is wrong, how you will get the interview calls? That's very essential, I would say. I want to share one more thing. The practical experience, that's a practical experience. A few days back, one of my clients contacted me. He's a mid-level professional. You can say it's a 10 to 12 years of experience. 2 years back, he contacted us and we drafted his resume or the CV. And he said, please update my CV. I said, okay. For the CV updation, I contacted her and said, is your phone number still working? Is your email address is still working? Are you using this? And he was so surprised. The phone number he has shared with me 2 years back, that was 5 years back, he was not in use. I was so mad. What did you do? Oh, the same with the email address. The same with the email address. Email address should be very professional, very honestly. Usually here the professionals have mentioned the email address cutebaby@gmail.com. Or like these, the roses, or mylove@gmail.com, or the hotmail. These are the non-professional things, and you should be very careful about them.
Right. I'm sorry if I kept interrupting in between, but I think you've shared some very important information here. And so going back to what Brian was saying, Brian, I'd like to ask another follow-up question. So you were talking about how tailoring CVs is very important, just like you change your dresses according to occasions. So what is some of the information that a professional can refer to when it comes to tailoring your CV? Is it the job description? Is it your experience that with time, if it changes, you're going to tailor it, of course, but what are some of the ways that you need to keep in mind when you're tailoring your CV?
For a period in my life, I worked for 8 years for one corporation, and it was a very well-known, very famous corporation. And then I left to try a venture on my own, and I was a miserable failure. So then I had to start again, and I got a job, 6 months with one company, and I was. So my resume looks a little strange because the first thing someone would see is that I was very newly working for one company and already looking for a new job. Then I had been running my own business for a while, and that didn't work. So I had sort of 2 failures right in a row, and that is not a good way to lead for a resume. So what I did was change the time. I didn't lie, but I did what we call a skills-based resume, where I listed how long I had been working in management for a large corporation. So I put that first, and then the other experiences, that I was an entrepreneur for a shorter period of time. I put that later. And rearranging that, I think it matches what Lubna was talking about with the 6 seconds, or I don't know if it's 6 seconds, but certainly a very short amount of time that someone has to make that first impression. That is, that's one way to arrange your list of experiences. I think of all the people that I've hired, dozens of people I've hired over many years, the thing that I find is most rewarding is if it's a nice person that I want to work with. I can forgive someone for having a rocky career or, changing jobs a few times after university, or being in an industry that changes a lot. Those are easy things to understand. You just need to find a way to tell your story in the right order.
Right. Thank you so much, Brian. I think that was very, very helpful. And I'd just like to, I know this question just popped up in my head it's for Ms. Lubna, and it's about something that you were also talking about previously, Ms. Lubna. So I think a lot of times professionals or young professionals, when they're applying to jobs, they're very passionate about something. And when you meet them in person, you're also very impressed by them. But sometimes they fail to reflect the same on their resumes or their CVs because maybe they're not very specific in terms of their achievements. They miss out on some of the very important details and very important achievements at work. And how do you see this, and what would you suggest if somebody is making a new CV and they would want guidance around this? How can they show their passion through their CVs? Because obviously they're not going to meet the recruiter till they impress them by the CV. So yes, over to you.
Okay, very honestly, resume writing is not an easy job. It's a critical thing. Okay, everybody cannot write their CV. It's really difficult. If I write my own CV, it would be difficult for me as well. Very honestly, even for some C-level professionals, it would be very difficult for them to write on their own.
I think we've
Did we lose
lost
Lubna? I heard. I can answer until she comes back if that helps. Okay, and I will say I will copy what she's saying. Yes, it's true. There are many people that have, they're shy, or they don't want to brag about their accomplishments, and it can be very painful because I have to say there are many people of whom I'm personally very impressed, but they don't believe they are important people. They don't believe they've had good accomplishments, and this is not really professional advice. It's just sort of friendly advice. If you feel shy about who you are and what you've accomplished, you really do need to have a friend, go through line by line of what you have done, because there are probably great accomplishments of yours that you aren't remembering. And some things you do in a job or in an academic career might seem normal that everyone does them, but you really do need a second opinion to give you that kind of feedback on, should you, include some volunteer work you've done? Should you include a class project? Because maybe that level of detail is really important. Sometimes even if you have supervised a few people in a small way, even an intern, that can matter a lot, because if an employer is looking for someone with some management skills and you've only managed a very small, in a very small way, maybe even in Model UN, that still tells a story. And I think that Lubna is right. You really do need an outside opinion to tell your story sometimes. So don't do it on your own. It's too important. And I don't know if you have the budget for a professional, but at a minimum, you should engage with friends, or if there's anyone at your university who has a career office, it's definitely worth asking their time as well.
Right, thank you so much, Brian. And I think that does respond to my question to a great extent. And I think it is very helpful to seek an external advice. I think I'm a person who finds it very embarrassing and very hard to write about myself. So I'd rather, ask for an opinion from a friend or somebody who knows me better than I know myself. Maybe it can be a mentor or a friend or anybody. But yes, I think that's a life advice when you're working on your resume or your CV. Right. So Ryan, I have another question for you. So I think a lot of people have also been asking this question. Is there a standard template when it comes to writing a CV, specifically when you are writing your CV maybe to an international organization? Because a lot of people refer to Europass template, but also if there are any local jobs that you're applying to, is there any standard template?
So this is interesting. In a lot of companies, especially large organizations, you'll see when you have to give your information to them, there's an online template. So you need to enter in, your name and your address and your phone number and your email. And Lubna was right. All that has to be accurate. And then you put in your history of education and employment. And then they ask you to attach a resume anyway. So you've given them all this information, and then they ask for it again. So it's clearly important to them, although, I think some of the reason is that most people who apply for a job really want to show themselves in their own way. Now, I've never turned down a resume because the information was centered, in the middle of the resume, or it was off to the left or right. I don't care. If you use 10 different fonts and different sizes of text, that might be difficult to read. So I would not be too creative and too artistic. If everything is, Arial font or whatever standard font you have, that's fine. I don't think that there's a style that is going to be correct every day for every job for the next 5 years. I know people publish a lot of books that show different styles of resumes, but honestly, as long as the factual information is there and it's easy to look at, that's important. I will say please have mercy on the people who are hiring, because if you have one page and it's just full of text and you have so many words on 1 or 2 sheets of paper, it's very difficult to read that. Make it easy on the eyes for the hiring manager so that they can get your information quickly and easily. There is a danger of putting too much information. Some people say, 25% white space. I think the important thing is, if you have your job title clearly labeled and where, and when you worked at a place, and that tells 80% of the information. If you put sales manager 5 years, most people aren't going to care too much about what you sold. You don't need to put, a paragraph about the details of your product. If someone cares that much, they will ask in in an interview. So you only need to tell them enough to get the interview. And that's what I would leave it. I see Lubna's back, so I'm going to yield the remainder of my time.
Right, thank you so much, Ryan. I think that did again respond to my question in a very brief and accurate manner. Thank you so much for doing that. Also, Lubna, would you want to add anything to it?
Yes.
So
First of all, I'm sorry.
Yeah. Okay, sorry, go ahead. So I'm just giving you an idea. We were talking about what a standard template, or do we really need a standard template if there is one out there?
Okay, first of all, I'm sorry. It all happens here in Pakistan, the power breakdown, and that's why I was not available online. Okay, we left the achievements. Remember, it's truly difficult to describe the achievements. I was sharing with you my personal experience, the professional experiences as well. Actually, what the problem we have to face, the professional professional don't know what are the achievements actually. We have to discover those achievements. We have to work on them. We have to give them the example. These are the achievements. We go through an extra mile to discuss with them. And after when they receive the CV from us, they got surprised. Yes, we are these professionals. Yes, and very honestly, those are not the fake achievements. Those are the achievements that they have given us. We just explored them. Okay. Now your next question is about the layout of the CV. Very honestly, there is no hard and fast rules. There are so many layouts available free online. You can Google and you can find, there is a long list of the rule. I would like to share the rule, but how would you select a good template? A good template is one that's very clean, concise, and clear. That should not be very colorful. Okay, it's okay if you choose the one template that is a bit colorful, but you should be reserved regarding the colors. Don't use the mustard orange like this colors. You can go with the blue, but my professional opinion is white and black content is the better. There should be a good space between the lines as well. All the important information should be there, and your first page of the CV is very important. If you don't have the information, what the recruiter is looking for, that is not available on the first page, he won't move toward the next page. Okay, here is the 6-second challenge. You have to get the attention of the recruiter. All the information should be correct. See, again, the CV format, the length of the CV is very important. Okay, for the entry-level professionals, for first-time job seekers, they should combine all of the information on the first page of the CV. One page CV is enough for them. But as your experience, your roles add on, obviously you need a 2-page CV and the 3-page CV. But please don't go for the 6-page, 7-page CV. That doesn't work at all.
Right. Thank you so much.
Yes. I just have to say that please listen to Lubna. Do not put in a C unless your name has PhD and JD and a few other letters after it. You should not have a 6-page CV.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think we should all take note of that. Thank you so much, Brian and Lubna, for that insightful discussion. And I think we've actually touched upon a lot of aspects of how to write an effective CV, but we have a huge number of audience here who has been listening to you throughout. And I am sure that they will be having a lot of questions too. I see a lot of questions in the chat box. Some of them are touching upon these nitty-gritties of writing an effective CV, but they can be very important and very crucial. So I would just like the audience that they pose their questions now. The floor is open. You can raise your hand virtually, and then we can ask you to unmute yourself. Some of the questions will also be picking up from the chat box. And also, अगर आपने उर्दू में सवाल पूछना है तो प्लीज़ ज़रूर पूछें. हम चाहते हैं कि जितना इंक्लूसिव हम इस प्लेटफॉर्म को बना सकते हैं बनाएं. अगर हमने सर ब्रायन को या मिस लुबना को वो रेफर करना है तो वी कैन डू इट. लेकिन कोई मसला नहीं है अगर जिस ज़बान में भी आप बात करना कंफर्टेबल हैं जो हमें भी समझ आ जाए तो it's completely fine.
Actually, not language should not be the barrier. You should have to your concepts clear right now. This is the chance you are sitting with the professionals, and you should get maximum. आपको ज़्यादा.
Absolutely. So yes, Ashok, can you please help me out if you have any questions from the audience?
Sure. If somebody wants to ask a question live, please raise your hand. We'll find it out, like who is it, and we'll give you a chance to ask the questions. Please make sure that the questions are to the point and specific. Okay, Naksh, I've sent you the question. You can start with that and we'll see if somebody raised their hand. So
awesome, that sounds good. Right, okay, so I think I've just come across a very important question and I'll start with that. So Sir Brian, if you could respond to that question. How would you differentiate between an academic CV and a professional CV, and how does it work out?
So, you know, if you have an academic CV, you're going to be listing certain publications that you've had, conferences that you may have presented papers at. You're going to list things that would matter a great deal to someone who's in your field. You know, I think of a chemist who would be able to discuss the types of molecules that they've studied, the types of procedures. Whereas if you're working instead in a, you know, if you're looking for a commercial position that's more general and it doesn't require that type of knowledge to be specific for the job, then you wouldn't want to include that because it's extra details that don't really help you. And you know, I'm reminded of the idea that when you're trying to sell something to someone and they say, yes, I want to buy your product, that's when you stop trying to sell. And the same thing is true for a resume. When you include the basic facts that a manager needs to know in your resume, don't put extra. You can hurt yourself if you include too much information because it makes them think you know, if they think you're really great on page 1 and they think you're really great on page 2, the extra pages, if they're just sort of mediocre, just okay, then their overall impression of you will be lower. And that's just human nature. So again, if you're applying for if you're asked to include an academic CV, only include the academic publications that you've been involved in or research programs you've been involved in. You don't want to include commercial employment that you've had. I mean, at most, maybe one line just to, you know, explain your time. You know, I worked for BASF for a year or something. And those are the two transitions. I have to say in the United States, we almost never use the word CV. I mean, we all know what it means, but we just use the word resume, except for academic situations. You will find a resume that includes a list of publications. And that is what we would refer to as an academic CV. So the terminology isn't all that terribly important. It's just, you know if you're applying for a position at a research university versus a company in a management role. So those are the two directions you could go.
Right, thank you so much, Brian, for that elaborate response. I think it makes a lot of sense now. And I also hope that, Ms. Rubia, your question was responded to. I think we have another very important question, and Ms. Lubna, I'll pose that to you. So what is the difference between CV and a portfolio?
Okay, CV is the professional bio of yourself. Portfolio is usually asked to the professionals who are into the creative field, you can say. They have to demonstrate their work. They have to give the examples of their works. But the CV, in the CV, you don't have to explain your detailed the work experience. Like if you have done the thesis, you just have to mention the title of those thesis, not so much detail, just 20 or 30 words you can explain your thesis. But regarding the portfolio, you have you are into the fine arts, you are the fine arts field, or like you are into the modeling field, modeling industry, you want to apply in that, you need the portfolio. You have to have your photo shoots with you, there should be a file. That's the major difference between the portfolio and the professional CV.
Great. Thank you so much, Ms. Lubna, for that response. Okay, so we have another question, and Brian, I'd appreciate if you can take it. So there's this question that what should we write in our interests? And I think it's a very interesting question because I also, I think, find it very difficult to know what I have to write in my interests. And would it be a put off for the recruiter, or would they actually appreciate me writing that down?
Great question. Find out what the boss likes and then like everything. And those are your interests. You know, if the boss likes to golf, then you put like you like to golf. And if the boss likes skiing, then you like skiing. I mean, I'm joking, but I think that's what everyone wonders. If I like Pakistan Super League, am I going to get a job if I put that down? I mean, everyone likes that, right? So just tell the truth. I think, the reason they put interest in there, ask yourself, do they really care if you like knitting or sewing? Do they really care if you like Bollywood films? I mean, it's what they're trying to do is put the distractions into a box. In your resume, you should have what I call nouns and verbs. I worked at Johnson & Johnson. I developed a vaccine. You don't want to say, I passionately worked at Johnson & Johnson and I vigorously made a vaccine. I mean, we hope so. We hope that's every job you do. So just nouns and facts in the resume. The interest part, I will say this. If you're trying to make your career in the interest part, you're doing it in the wrong place. The part where you show your compassion, your energy, your interest, that is in the cover letter. The cover letter is where you can write 2 or 3 paragraphs about your passion, your interest, why you want to work in, say, the power industry or, the automotive industry or the IT industry or, whatever field you want to work in. You want to work in, anything that means something to you. You explain that in the cover letter. Because when you ask yourself, how many Pakistani people are you competing with that have a degree that's similar to you? Probably many. That have a few years experience that's similar to you? Probably many. So how can you show the employer that you have the right interest and the right passion? That's in the cover letter. The interest section, maybe you can, find a few things you can say that are relevant to that job, but it's very unlikely that that's a key place of importance. And personally, unless you like some obscure thing that the manager also likes and you want to talk about that with them for the rest of, during the job interview, it's probably not very important. And
Great, thank you so much, Brian, for that very brutally honest, but I think some very important information that you've shared there. Thank you so much for that. So I think we have another important question, and Ms. Lubna, I'll pose that to you. So the question is that how do we mention references in CV, and can we simply write that we can provide it upon request, or should we mention the contact details of our previous employers or the references, and then we can ask, the recruiter to refer to them directly? How do we do that ethically?
Okay, very honestly, references should not be added into the CV. They would cover a maximum, a paragraph space at least. References should be added when the recruiter asks for. If that is the requirement of the job, then you should add the references. Otherwise, there is no need to mention the references into the CV.
Totally agree.
Okay.
Yes.
I would like to add a few important points regarding the cover letter. Hopefully, Brent don't mind it. Okay, a cover letter should not be lengthy. It should be a very brief. Language should be, yes, I totally agree. Your passion should be there in the cover letter. The cover letter language should be very interactive. It should compel the recruiter. Yes, this is the professional. I should have a look at his CV. Hardly 200 words at maximum for the cover letter, not more than that. I think this information would be helpful for all of you regarding the cover letter.
No, absolutely. Thank you so much, Ms. Lubna, for sharing that with us. Mohammed Anis, you have raised your hand. I'd appreciate if you can unmute yourself and please share the question. Anis, we cannot hear you. You'll have to unmute yourself. So there's an option on your screen where you'll have to click on your mic and you'll be unmuted.
Sorry. Yeah, I would like to ask a question related to a picture. In a CV or resume, is how much the picture is important And if it is important, what should be its size and what should be its location? Hello.
Right.
In America,
Yeah, we got it.
go ahead, Lubna.
Yes, Sir Brian, you can go ahead if you would want to respond to that.
If you're applying for a job in the United States, do not include a photo. Do not include any information about your age or your religion. It is illegal for the employer to ask, and it will not be received well if you include it, because they're trying to reduce discrimination based on gender or race or age. I could give you a lot of stories, but do not include a photo. And you know, you never know. Maybe you don't look handsome to one person, and maybe you do to another. So you know, I think it's probably just not a good idea. And I will let Lubna finish the rest, please.
Okay, now next I want to add regarding the picture, I want to answer. That's true. If you are going to apply in the US and the Europe, there is no need of the picture to put on your CV. But as far as Pakistan is concerned, if you are going to apply here in Pakistan or the Gulf region, yes, there is need of the picture. Recruiters definitely demands for the picture, or it is considered good if you put on the picture, and you will definitely get the results as well. Okay, now the question is what mistakes professionals do while putting up their pictures. If you put your picture of the nikah ceremony or the engagement function, or you are hanging out with the friends, if you put up this sort of picture, then it's better not to put on your picture on your CV. Okay, because it is my personal experience. Professionals do this. उनके शादी के वलीमा पिक्चर्स उन्होंने मेंशन वहाँ पे लगाई होती हैं, और I usually ये क्या कर रहे हैं? This is there should be maturity. It shows the maturity. It also shows that you don't have the time to give the importance to your CV. Okay, and number two, what is important? What is the professional picture, professional looking picture, or professional looking headshot actually is? It should be nice. You should be very nicely dressed up, and you should be dressed up in a way that you are going you are going out for a very important meeting. Okay. Number two, your background should be plain. That's important. If you having the picture, a 5-star hotel is at your back, and you are posing like a model, that is not acceptable. Okay. Have a very nice professional looking picture, and I always recommend to my professionals, wear a very good smile on your face. That smile really works, really works. That's my suggestion, my professional experience I want to share regarding the picture. Okay, Mohammed, what's your answer?
I would also add, Lubna, you know, when you see your photo on your cell phone, it might look great. Even if you have a professional take it, it might look great. Print out the photo on a black and white printer, and then make a photocopy of that, and then see how good it looks. If it starts to look grainy and the lines are, you know, blurry, that might be the kind of photo that the manager gets. So make sure you have a photo that will look good if it gets printed out on a printer, not just good on a phone, because you don't know how your resume will be given to a boss. It can go through many steps that you don't control.
Yeah, that's true.
Right. Thank you so much, Brian and Ms. Lubna, for sharing that. I think I don't know a lot of people who would give such detailed and honest information, specifically when putting up pictures on your CV. So I think this was very helpful. Thank you so much for doing this. I think we have another person from the audience who wanted to ask a question. So Sir Ahmed Sam, I thought that you were raising your hand. You can just unmute yourself and you can go ahead.
Hello everyone, this is Mohammed Ahmed from BizWash. I'm a performing quality control manager job, and I want to ask a question about should participant have to add his numbers or CGPA on CV? And what type of dressing they should have to wear while they are performing an interview or an online meeting?
Right. Thank you for that question, Ahmed. Ms. Lubna, if you can take that question first.
I could understand the first part of the question, but the second part of the
I can just repeat it for you, Ms. Lubna. So the question was that is it important to write your marks and CGPAs from university transcripts on your CV?
Okay, CGPAs or marks. Okay. Ahmed, you have to mention your degrees. Obviously, all the degrees and all certifications should be there, but you can add your CGP if that's above average. That's my recommendation. If you got the distinction, you can mention over there. But otherwise, it's average or below average. There is no need to mention the marks or the CV over there. Okay. And what about the second question? Second part of the question?
How do
It is
you
about
dress
the
up in your interview?
yes, please.
It's about.
So how do you dress
the
up in an
second
interview?
part? Dress up?
How do you dress up in an interview, or if you have a virtual meeting with a recruiter?
Oh no, definitely. What sort of guidance I provided you regarding the picture? What sort of picture you should put up in your CV? Exactly, you should follow the same same way. You should be you should wear a very formal dress. Very honestly, the formal tie should be there. These are the standards. Very honestly, and I have not set those standards, but you have to follow this. There are some rules that every professional has to follow. These are the company rules. You can say that should be very professional look. And don't Ahmed, don't forget a good smile on the face. If you are going into the interview, as you enter into the room, recruiter can assess many things about you that you can't assess. Okay. Number two, when you shake the hands with the recruiter, that should be the strength of your strength of shaking the hands also matter. Okay, you can transfer the feelings as well, and obviously your sitting style is very important. In which posture you are sitting, and your non-verbal language is equally important here. What you are saying, that's important, but the non-verbal language is equally important. How you are moving, how your hands are moving, how you are sitting, how like this. The non-verbal communication here, the non-verbal, you have to focus on your non-verbal communication. And
right, thank you so much.
Well, thank you so much, ma'am.
Yes, so
Don't shake hands. Don't shake hands until everyone has had a vaccine. That's number one. But you asked a question about how to dress and how to be ready for Zoom. And I want to say something that most people probably know. We're spending a lot of time on Zoom calls. I know that I do. I'm sure many of you do. And there are sometimes after a Zoom call, I have a bad headache. And I think, I've been on Zoom calls for a long time. And, it's because right now the screen is only 1 foot away from me and I can see someone's face. I never do that in normal life. You never do that. Can you imagine having a job interview where you're 1 foot away from someone? They say this activates our fight or flight reflex. So, you may have noticed that sometimes when I'm sitting here, I'm a little off center from camera. I'm kind of looking up a little bit. I'm trying not to stare at people too directly. And I think you have to be aware of the other person that you're talking to, because you don't want to seem like you're uninterested in the talk, but you don't want to always be too close. So I would say more than the color of your clothing, think about how do you look on camera. Practice with friends, just talking to them, watch how they look, practice interviewing with other people so you can get used to talking to people on Zoom calls one-to-one. That would be my number one advice. And ask your friends, how does the background of, if you have a plain white wall behind you, don't wear a white shirt. It will sort of wash out. So there are a number of things that you can think about, but the background matters. I don't want to give a simple answer. You asked a great question. Looking good on a video call is very different from many other experiences, but you're going to have to do it. The only answer I can say is practice and ask many people. The most thing that will do is give you the benefit of practice and experience, so you don't feel nervous. Lubna's very right, and I can promise you, I'm going to be a diplomat for at least 20 or at least 10 or 15 more years. I'm never going to apply for another job in my life, but I started getting nervous when I heard her say about everything that's important, and I thought, my clothes are important, my language is important, my nonverbal, it's a lot. So the best thing you can do is just practice with your friends. Pretend interviewing other people, ask them tough questions, have them ask you tough questions. This is more important than getting into a good university. So practice, practice, practice. That's my advice.
And Brian, also always be yourself.
Thank you so much, Ms. Lubna, for adding that. And thank you, Brian, for giving such a detailed response. And I do agree that interacting with people online and through virtual platform has become far more difficult than it would have been otherwise sitting right in front of the other person. There are a lot of other constraints when we're sitting across a screen. And yes, I do agree that practicing is the only way probably to go about it. Right, so I think it's 7:10 and we are going to wrap up quickly because we have some constraints of time, and I'm going to take one more question. And so Brian, I'll start posing this question to you. So it's a very interesting question. It says that if I have an engineering experience, but I'm applying to a job which is in the sales department, should I mention that experience in my CV? If not, why? And if yes, so how do we do that?
I would, if the job is, if it's a sales job of a product that is engineered, then that's great. I was in sales for 15 years, and a great salesman knows just enough about the product to convince the customer. You don't have to be very, very smart to be a good salesperson. You have to never give up, and you have to be just a little smarter than your competition. I have to say that I spoke Chinese and I spoke a little French, and I did not put that in my resume for many jobs because it was a distraction. It was zero benefit to the job I was applying for. But if you have a degree in engineering, that's much more important than just being able to speak Chinese, because a degree in engineering means you spent many, many years doing extremely complicated tasks. And if you can understand how rare that is, then I would say that would definitely be an asset. And I would include that. But I would not necessarily include that you have a little bit of skill in a foreign language. If you can say ni hao ma, that's not going to impress anybody. So I would just say, if it's a big impressive accomplishment, include it, but if it's small, let it go.
Right, thank you so much.
Next, I want to add something here. There is actually, this is most relevant question to my field. That's why I really want to ask this question. There are many professionals who are the sales engineers, who have the engineering degree, but they are in the industry of the sales, and they are the marvelous sales professionals. So if you want to switch over the industry, that's the problem. But if you are the engineer, you can easily go to the sales field, and there is a very good demand of the sales professional in the engineering, with the background of the engineering, if you are having the degree of the engineers.
Right. Thank you so much, Ms. Lubna, for adding to that. And with that, I would like to thank Sir Brian and Ms. Lubna, both of you, for giving so much of your time and effort and responding to all of the questions that I kept throwing at you. And I know that it must have been draining at some point, but thank you for giving us such a detailed insight on how to write an effective CV. I also would like to thank the audience who has been sitting here for a very long time. And thank you for listening, and also thank you for sharing your questions. I do hope that after receiving these insights and experiences and information, knowledge from Ms. Lubna and Sir Brian, you would be able to improve your CVs. And make sure that you do reach out to other professionals and people around you who are able to guide you, reaching out to mentors who have the chance to proofread your CV and maybe make some recommendations is a very good idea. I would personally, as a person who has been training students on CV writing, would suggest that do not rely on your own gut when you're writing a CV. Please make sure that you get a lot of people, not a lot of, but some trustworthy, some professional people who are able to proofread it for you and suggest some further steps to you towards that. And with that, I think we're also very much honored, and we're very happy to have our Consul General over here who has joined us. And I'm sure that, ma'am, you would have been listening to all of our conversation. So I would just like to quickly introduce you as well, and then I'd pass on the stage to you. So we're joined by Ms. Catherine, who has assumed her position in the U.S. Consul General in Lahore on September 4, 2019. She is a career member of the U.S. Foreign Service, most recently serving as the Chief of Staff for the Director General of the U.S. Foreign Service. She began her foreign services career with the United States Agency for International Development in Washington, D.C., with additional tours in Costa Rica and El Salvador before joining the Department of State. Her previous assignments include Karachi and Peshawar, so she's been in Pakistan for quite a while. She served as a regional director for the Office of Foreign's mission in Miami, supporting 3,000 foreign diplomats stationed across the southeastern United States. She has also served as a diplomat in residence, responsible for recruiting and mentoring future members of the American Diplomatic Corps. She earned a bachelor's degree in business administration, a master's degree in business administration, and a master's in accounting from Florida International University, as well as master's degree in environmental science and policy from Columbia University. So, Ms. Catherine, the floor is yours. Thank you so much for joining us, and we would like to hear your keynote remarks on obviously this occasion. It's a pleasure to have you here.
Thank you very much. I'm excited to be here, and I've been sitting in for probably close to almost the last hour, and questions were fantastic. So I applaud Brian and Lubna for fabulous answers, all very relevant information, and more importantly, information that doesn't matter if you're applying for a job in Pakistan, England, United States, or in Dubai. All great information. So with that, let us see if we can close this event. I am really honored to be here this evening to be part of the PUAN virtual Employability and Skills Conference 2021. I would like to thank the speakers, the moderators, and the team at the Lahore Consulate and PUAN for the hard work that you've all done to organize such an informed and important conference. The PUAN Virtual Employability Conference is an opportunity for U.S. government-sponsored alumni to connect with people from the corporate sector, NGOs, civil society, government institutions, and private businesses. There is one thing that we are all confident, those of us that are involved in education and employment of young people, regardless of whether you're in Pakistan or anywhere else around the world, that every student needs to find meaningful employment. In some ways, each of you, I want you to think of yourself as this is what happens when you've done a million things in one day and you're still jet lagged. I want you each to think of yourself as an individual startup. I know that sounds a little different, but think of yourself as your own private corporation, and your CV, or whatever you want to call it, your resume, your portfolio, is your personal branding. Think of you being your own Kim Kardashian. You are going to brand yourself. Your journey in PUAN began with one of the many people-to-people exchange programs that the United States and Pakistan has created for over 70 years. These programs send students, scholars, and experts back and forth between Pakistan and the United States, creating lifelong links between our two countries. Today, as your journey continues, some of you here are at the start of your careers. Others are looking to mentor new graduates, and some of you are employers looking to expand your businesses. Each of you is worthy of the investment and time and energy that PUAN programs provide. We share your pride in PUAN, believe it or not, which is the largest alumni network on the planet, right here in Pakistan. Your efforts in this Employability and Skills Conference will help advance your goals and dreams, whatever they are. I encourage you to work hard, explore your options, and make your dream life a reality. On a personal note, I began my journey in my career initially in the private sector. I learned many of the skills that have been quite useful to me in my diplomatic career through attending conferences similar to this one. I hope that each of you has figured out that these conferences are great to work on collaboration, expanding your network, and realizing that, as Brian and I know Lubna said, you constantly have to be learning. You have to become a lifelong learner. As you've all noticed, technology is changing. The first time I attended this conference was in November of 2019 at the Nishat Hotel. It was in person. And here we are in March, and it's all been done virtually. You know, with that, keep in mind that life is changing and there are constant challenges. And change is accelerating exponentially. As many of you have noticed from this conference, as well as in your day-to-day lives, face-to-face meetings are no longer a necessity to get the job done. Those of you that are online need to realize that your online or over-the-camera persona is just as important as ever. Many of you ask great questions about, you know, what clothes do I wear? How do I dress? How do I speak? How do I present myself? The camera angle. These are all things that 5 years ago, nobody was really thinking about. You all, being members of PUAN, are at a huge advantage compared to the average Pakistani out there because you have embraced communications. You've embraced the era of Zoom. I encourage you to seize this opportunity of change. I encourage you to lead that change that's coming to Pakistan. I want you to be at the forefront, not only for yourself, but for your community and more importantly for your country. On behalf of the United States Mission to Pakistan, thank you for joining us tonight and for being, more importantly, an active member, an active part of PUAN. Your participation in this and in many programs that PUAN offers contributes significantly to the extraordinary ties between our two countries. I hope that you've taken this evening to learn vital information that will not only make you a better employee, but make you a better person. Thank you, and I hope to see you all soon.
Thank you so much, Catherine. Thanks a lot. And with that, I think I would want to pass the mic to Ms. Shanila, and maybe we can have a group photo since everybody is here.
Thank you so much, Naksh, for the wonderful job. Can I please request everyone, or those who are at least willing, to turn on their videos so that we can click photos for the social media? I can see, yeah, take your time. I'm giving you guys 15 to 20 seconds so that you can turn on your cameras. Okay, and please settle down. I can still see Taiba is adjusting her camera. Shan is also trying to turn his camera on. Okay, here we go. Let me take a few more in case Acha, I can still see 22 non-video participants. So I'm assuming that you guys don't want to be part of social media posts, right? Because I don't want to have any kind of blames after the session that, oh my God, you didn't take our photo. One more.
Let's smile for 10 seconds, everyone. Let's smile for 10 seconds.
Yeah, smile, or can we make the victory sign? I can't make because I would be supposed to make screenshot. So here we go for another picture. Thank you. Perfect. Now this is what we call a lively picture. Thank you so much, everyone. Over to you, Asha, for the announcements regarding our next sessions for PUAN Employability and Skills Conference. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Shanida. Thank you, Ms. Catherine, and the speakers, Brian and Lubna, and Naksh for the wonderful job. So we are moving forward towards bridging the gap between where you are and the job market. So please be available for the next session tomorrow. That's about do's and don'ts of interviews at 12 p.m. In the daytime, and the second session is at 6 to 7:30. That's about raising the aspirations for 5 years plan. You will get all the details in the email. Please check your emails and Facebook pages for the updates. Thank you, everyone, for the wonderful session. You have been a great audience, and we believe that you will take something that's going to help you and make a little difference in your life. And we want to see you excelling the fields in life, inshallah, and be in our places in the coming years. Thank you, everyone. Take care, everyone. Shanida, over to you. You can just end the meeting.
Thank you so much, everyone. We are signing out from here, and we will be uploading the recording on PUAN's YouTube channel, and it would be uploaded on our blog as well. So stay tuned, and we'll see you guys tomorrow in our second and third session. Bye-bye. Allah Hafiz.